Next news here, courtesy of Sky News. I'm sure I've covered this already on the Random Show, but I thought I'll cover it on here. Regarding Top Boy actor Micheal Ward being charged with 2 counts of rape. This came out of nowhere, I feel like, especially out here in the UK. There weren't any rumblings on my side of things. I feel like I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm connected, but I feel like I follow the right people on social that if this would have been rumbling in the background or behind the scenes, I would have heard about it, but I didn't hear jack shit. Maybe I'm not outside, so that's probably a bit different. So maybe within the, outside world of people that hang around, actors and musicians within the black space and urban space, quote unquote, maybe this was a fucking unkept secret, but I've not heard anything. And I think for the most part, if there's a weirdo guy, especially, London's a very small city, it's a very small scene as well. I feel like if this guy really was a weirdo, we would have heard before. So it's making me think, are these allegations likely to be true? I'm not really too sure. But then again, I think to myself, if you're getting charged and you're being brought to court because of these allegations, you'd imagine the Crown Prosecution Service has enough evidence to bring you to trial in the first place. It probably goes further than just, she said, he said sort of situation. So, maybe there is some evidence, maybe there is some credence to these allegations. There is some weight behind this. There is some evidence. So far, they've done a really good job of keeping that out of the media. We don't even know if there's been a rape kit administered. We don't know anything. All we know is that it's one person that's accused them of these things, and it happened sometime in 2023. The only thing that's a slight in this situation, I'm not really seeing a lot of people running to his defense, especially girls. I'm already seeing a lot of people running to his defense, especially girls, or just people in general. Obviously, some of his colleagues and peers. I think I saw a video actually on YouTube that showed, I don't know if it was actually real, Drake showing support, and other people, I don't know if that was actually real, don't get me wrong, it might be some AI thing, but I've not seen a lot of people running to support or to running to speak to his strength of his character. It's kind of like the opposite of Young Philly. Remember when Young Philly's situation went down, a bunch of people came out speaking to how much of a piece of shit and creep, sex pest he was behind the scenes, and girls coming out and saying, oh my god, I had a bad interaction with him when I went to his festival, and obviously all those clips of his own friends, people he makes content with, also saying, he's maybe not the guy that you'd want your sister to date and shit. Whereas with this is the kind of the opposite in terms of people are not saying anything, but their silence is deafening, in itself. Their silence is saying something as well. The fact that people are not jumping out and saying, oh no, this is a good dude, this is obviously a false allegations, we don't believe this, I'm backing my guy. Everyone's kind of keeping quiet. People are just quietly surprised and shocked, which is also probably not a good omen for him going forward. But I guess we'll have to let it play out and see what it is. But let's read the article courtesy of Sky News. It says Top Boy actor Micheal Ward has been charged with 2 counts of rape and is due to appear in the court next month. Ward, 27, has also been charged with 2 counts of assault by penetration and 1 count of sexual assault. I was mentioning it earlier, but I think this is the nightmare. Having this being read about you or being said about you is a nightmare. Those following lines, right? 2 counts of rape and being charged with 2 counts of assault by penetration is fucking crazy. That is an insane allegation to have on your jacket. Fucking wild. The offences relate to one woman and appeared to have happened or taken place in January 2023. Our specialist officers continue to support the woman who has come forward. We know investigations of this nature can have significant impact on those who make reports, says Superintendent Scott Ware, whose team is leading the Met Police investigation. There's a picture of him at the Cannes Film Festival doing a promo for a film called Eddington that people are saying is really good. Ward of Chestnut, Hertfordshire, is due to appear in Thames Magistrate Court on the 20th of August, the Crown Prosecution Service said. Ward said that he denies the charges of rape and sexual assault, adding in a statement, I recognize that proceedings are now ongoing and I have full faith that they will lead to my name being cleared. As of speaking as well, he's deleted all his social media, or his Instagram at least is the one that he used. He has no Instagram, so he's taking that down. I'm assuming he's just kind of keeping his counsel until that court date comes around, so most likely we won't see him outside again, I'd imagine. And I'm not sure people would want to have him at their events with that fucking shit hanging over his head. In a statement, Catherine Bacchus, Deputy Chief Crown Prosecutor for the CPS London South, said, we remind all concerned that proceedings against the suspect are active and he has a right to a fair trial. And it continues, it says it's vital that there should be no reporting, commentary or sharing of information online which would in any way prejudice these proceedings. Ward starred in popular Netflix series called Top Boy as Jamie. He also appeared in films like Blue Story, The Old Guard and Empire of the Light. In 2020, the Jamaican-born actor was awarded the BAFTA Rising Star Honour in 2020. He was nominated for the Best Supporting Actor in BAFTA 2021. Ward has also been up and coming American film called Eddington alongside Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, which is set to be released in the UK next month. Him starring alongside Pedro Pascal is the biggest, he's the hottest thing now in movies. He's doing fucking everything, and also starring alongside Joaquin Phoenix is a big fucking look. But you'd imagine those films are probably dead on arrival now because of allegations. You know, that's what happens with these type of movies. Anything in the press or in the run up to these movies coming out can affect their probably box office, and you'd imagine the attention, the accolades and shit is going to be severely hampered by this trial, and it'll probably be hampered even worse so if he is found guilty of these fucking offenses. So unfortunately for the people that have nothing to do with what he allegedly has been involved in, they are going to pay the price. He has more than 1 million followers on Instagram and participated in events such like Soccer Aid, Imagine Stamford Bridge. Ward gave a reading at the Christmas Eve carol service hosted by the Princess of Wales in 2023. So it's looking pretty dicey for the guy from flipping Top Boy, Micheal Ward. I did have a little search on ChatGPT to find out what type of evidence would be needed. According to ChatGPT, you don't really need a lot of evidence. It seems like what type of evidence needed to charge a rape in the UK. ChatGPT said the threshold to be charged by the Crown Prosecution Service would, number one, be required to have sufficient evidence. Is a realistic prospect of conviction be based on evidence, which means a jury most likely they're not convicted of the case goes to trial, and also is it a public interest test. So you'd imagine sufficient evidence would be applicable in this case, and it's obviously a public interest test because Micheal Ward is a famous person. Okay, so you'd imagine they'd want to make sure this gets brought to court, because the hope is that you're going to stop any potential future flipping assaults or things happening to people, because this is being brought to people's attention. But what kind of evidence can be considered is the one that kind of made me think, a compliance testimony, often the central piece of evidence. So obviously somebody saying, hey, he or she did this to me, which again is a she said, he said. Forensic evidence, second. Witnesses, CCTV, messages, calls, social media, medical records, or rape crisis support report. So those are the other evidences, but the main part of it is just somebody accusing you of something. So I wonder if this is maybe one of the reasons why the conviction rates in rapes are so low, primarily because the women involved obviously would prefer not to kind of relive that horror, relive that pain by prosecuting somebody or going to the police in the first place. So that's, you unfortunately probably lose a huge chunk of people, I'd imagine. Probably a big number of women probably just fail to even report them because they just don't want to go through it anymore. They just want to put it behind them, which unfortunately doesn't really stop it in the long run. I get why they do it themselves, but it unfortunately probably is better to kind of put up with the pain and allow yourself to kind of go through that just for the betterment of everybody else. But if that doesn't happen, then I wonder how much evidence is actually necessary and what that evidence needs to show in order for you to be deemed to be guilty of that crime. Because forensic evidence, of course, is obviously important. You'd imagine would be the most important thing, but it does say here on ChatGPT the first thing is the compliance testimony. So the obviously the victim of the crime saying, hey, this happened, and giving that testimony and giving their side of the event or to the police and going from there. So I'm curious to see what that will be as the court proceedings proceed. It continues on. It says, in many cases, there is no physical evidence and it's one person's word against another, but a CPS can still charge. Important notes: being charged is not the same as being convicted. False allegations are rare but can be taken seriously. Malicious accusations can lead to prosecutions. Bail conditions can be imposed after being charged. I don't really buy the idea that there are a bunch of women out there that purposely will, make up false allegations about men in the hope of putting them behind bars. But I also believe there are vengeful people out there, and I think that mostly happens if you're in a relationship with somebody or know someone personally. Do I believe that woman could be vengeful enough to kind of try and get you back and put that smut on your name? Yes, for sure. A big part of me still believes that, Megan Thee Stallion essentially did that to fucking Tory Lanez. She was probably very embarrassed and felt very ashamed by how Tory kind of exposed her for what she was getting up to behind the scenes or behind her friend's back by fucking Tory at the same time that he was fucking Kelsey. And I think most likely to get him back for him being, being a fucking chatty patty and kissing and telling, she basically said, yeah, you shot me. Even though I think she knows deep down he didn't. She hates the guy so much that she put that on his jacket. So can women do that? Yes. But I don't think that happens to just strangers. That obviously happened to somebody that she knew, she had an intimate relationship with, and would they want to bury, would they want and sleep like a baby afterwards? Of course. But I don't believe this idea that there's random women who are just trying to take you down and put smut in your name, and I don't think that's true. So if these things go to court, my tendency is to believe that most likely there is some truth to it, and there is no smoke without fire. I don't think, like myself included, regular guys don't just get fucking rape allegations thrown at them. I feel like if somebody is throwing these allegations at you or levying them against your name, it's most likely because you're a bit of a scumbag and you may have done what you've done. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. But I have been a little bit disturbed by some of the conversations I've seen online pertaining to this guy, mostly because people find him attractive and kind of being shocked. That's a really weird place that we're in culture, where people are like shocked that he's being accused of what he's being accused of because he's conventionally good looking, as if that matters, as if that would be a reason, as if like only ugly people rape people, only good. Like it's just like, huh? Like what the fuck does this mean? Very very confused way of looking at things. If anything, I feel like if you're conventionally good looking, that'd probably be the best cover for you to be physically sexually abusive or whatever else it may be to women, because people just assume that you do pretty well in that department because of what you look like, and maybe women as well let their guard down easier around you because of what you look like and shit, and then obviously guys along that kind of take the piss. And I think you hear that a lot with women do tend to say that a lot. Sometimes they kind of run into issues with guys who are tend quote unquote good looking in that respect, because number one, sometimes they don't really maybe have the greatest personalities because they didn't have to rely on that. Pick up my pretty boys out there. And number two, because sometimes in some cases they can sometimes be wolf in sheep clothing in that respect as well. But let's see how it plays out. I'm curious to see what happens. I'm curious to see how it does play out. I'm curious to also see if there is a scenario where this guy get found innocent and it gets revealed in court that the woman made it up. I'm curious to see what happens then. Will some of those collaborations, will some of those connections that you have come back, or do sometimes this is the price of being a bachelor and a party boy? Sometimes if you have these allegations on your name, even if it's not true, even if you get found innocent and cleared of all charges, the fact that you have this on your jacket, your punishment is that you lose certain people. I wonder if that's just the price you pay of being a bachelor. Like you're gonna run into, like, no matter how good, well behaved you are, you're gonna run into issues. And if you run into issues, that can pay, you got to pay a price for it. Because I have seen two clips actually of these girls. One clip is from a girl who spoke about having not the greatest experience with Micheal Ward and his entourage a couple of years ago. And one girl, I think she might have said that something happened recently. But in both occasions, if I'm not mistaken, both girls allege that they were out somewhere where Micheal Ward and his friends were. Not just, it wasn't him that did it specifically, but Micheal Ward and his boys were out somewhere, those girls were out somewhere, and it got to the end of the night, or they ended up outside, and both of the girls felt as if they got spiked, and both of the girls felt as if they were being like pressured in some way to go back to hotels and Airbnbs. So I'm not too sure if that's like a running theme happens within his interactions with women. Like go to a club, hang out, everyone gets really super drunk, and then it kind of escalates very quickly, and soon after you kind of feel like you're getting pushed and pressured into going to a hotel, or maybe you probably don't because you're not in the right state of mind. I don't know what it is. I'd hope that's not the case. Me personally, like I've said in previous streams, like I've grew up in an era where taking advantage of or having sex with girls who are drunk was never cool, was never a good thing. I know there are some guys who still think that's a win. I don't necessarily count that as a win. I think if you get a girl's number when she's blacked out drunk, or you somehow are able to get some girl to kiss you or whatever, maybe when she's fucking vomiting or spinning around and falling on the floor, that's not a win for me. In my time kind of going out there and picking up girls and shit, quote unquote, what we used to do and what we used to kind of play, what used to sort of pride ourselves on, was being really gentlemanly. And if a girl that you were speaking to, unfortunately decided to maybe drink too many and get really fucking plastered, you would take it out of you would take it within your control to look after them. You would make sure that they were looked after. You'd make sure that they got in an Uber, they met their friends up or whatever it may be, but they got home. And in some cases you'd maybe chip in with your friends to get them an Uber back home. You wouldn't go back with them. You wouldn't go back and help them in their house and all that sort of nonsense. You just put them in an Uber, you make sure their phone's on, you text them, you make sure the driver knows to send them back home, and then you text them and say to them, hey, just check in with me as soon as you get home. I just put you in an Uber type of thing. That's what people would do. And sometimes it wouldn't go anywhere. Sometimes it would be a great gentlemanly thing that would be like, oh my God, really impressed by it, and it'll maybe get you a long way in maybe ensuring that you get what you want in terms of your outcome later on down the line. But it's just like the kind and human thing to do, right? That's what you should be doing for people, looking out for them. Even if it's in a case where like it's a stranger and you just want to, you know, hook up. In that situation, you should be trying, you know, especially if you got to know the person, you kind of that's your person now. You have to look after them. I don't know. I just felt that sense of responsibility if that was me. Or even if it's not that, even if you don't want to feel that sense of responsibility and you feel like that's maybe too white knighty or too simpy-ish, just leave it alone. I never understood the boys who enjoy kind of trying still to pursue that line of fucking exploration with a girl when they clearly smashed. It makes absolutely no sense in my opinion. I hate it. I've always hated it. I've always hated it. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens to this guy.